Hello and welcome to our new colleagues, and a big thank you to all who have been a part of our previous talk. It's Quality Engineering Community Day 2023 that is conducted by the Global Testing and Pro Quality communities. We are happy to see all of you with us. Our next speaker is Oleksandr Podoliako with the topic Yet Another Approach to Build Interaction with REST in Java. Hi, Alexander.
Hi all.
Please notice that the session is being recorded and the recording will be available in a week after the session. And before we start, let me mention that if you have any thoughts or questions about the topic, please comment them in the chat section or in Q&A tab on the top right of the page. The questions will be announced after the presentation. And returning to Oleksandr, he has been working as test automation engineer for 5 years, and today he would like to introduce the Nearest library. It's a free and open source solution that is able to make your work a bit easier. And prior to beginning our insightful presentation, let me ask a few questions. Automation now includes a wide range of technologies that can minimize the need of manual efforts and simplify the testing process. Could you explain what motivates you especially to choose automation testing?
Yeah, thank you for the great question. For me, the biggest good thing about automation testing is that this activity is very diverse because you can do different activities. You can do coding, you can do communicating with people, you can do testing, like everything what we have in IT. Actually, you can do as test automation engineer because also you can help with some pipelines, and because of that this position is very interesting because you do different stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And have you ever wondered if automated testers could replace manual ones? I was just...
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry, please go on.
No, go on.
Yeah, I was just reading an interesting article about it. I wanted to get your thoughts. Yeah, do you think that automation tester could completely take over the job of manual testers?
Yeah, I heard such thoughts a lot a few years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, when I just started to work as a test automation engineer. But what I see now and what I see from my experience is that automation testing cannot substitute manual testing. And even I think that they solve a bit different tasks, because automation testing is more about some repetitive task, about regression testing, and manual should be more about some creative task, like ad hoc testing and activities like that. And yeah, you always, because we we here just to help a business to achieve his goals, and we should be efficient. And you always should think what would be more efficient, to do automation testing or to do manual testing. And from my perspective, it's not every time automation testing is more efficient than manual testing. Thank you.
Thank you. And while we are on the topic, now ChatGPT is very popular. And do you think that a tool like ChatGPT could potentially replace testing in the future?
I think that even opposite can happen, because as I see from working with ChatGPT, that this tool has a lot of mistakes, and it's for sure makes us more efficient, but we still need to double check the results after this tool. And I assume that it will be even more demand of software testers than it is now with improving this tool. I think we cannot we can be calm about our job safety right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, avoiding when we can use tools like ChatGPT in a full power. Okay, and I propose to continue with the presentation. Alexander, please go on.
Okay, sure. At first, I would like to repeat that today I will talk about yet another approach to build interaction with REST in Java, and just a few more facts about me. I have worked as test automation engineer since 2017. I have worked on different projects by size, by business domain, and by platform. And while working, I spent a lot of time to do self-education, and because of that, I passed a few IT certifications. But then, on some point of my life, I understand that I want not just to take information from society, but to give it. And I started to write some articles which are related to uh, test automation, and you can find them on my Medium page. And that's all about me. And I would like to give you a bit of context how I come to this topic, to this presentation. And it happened approximately 1 year ago. One my good friend was on hiring process and received a test task. It was very easy task. It was about creating a few tests which verifies REST endpoints. And he shared with me his solution, and it was done with pure REST assured. And I just got an idea: is it the best way to do such tasks? And it was like entry point. After what, I started to think on this topic, and to analyze what approaches we have to solve this REST task. At first, we have to understand what typical tasks with REST API we have as test automation engineers. And I separated all these tasks on three big groups. And first group, it's just to do low-level API testing. It's activity where we check that we send right request with right query parameters, with right headers, with right body, and we receive correct status code, correct body, and that's all. And it's very common task for test automation engineers. The second big task which are related to REST API is to create pre and post conditions for more complicated UI end-to-end tests. And it's a very important task because UI end-to-end test tends to be unreliable, and it's important to write them very isolated and to manage state of application. For example, if we have some business workflow about e-commerce shop, and we need to add some product to the cart. Before we can go through this workflow, we should be sure that this product is available, that this product has correct quantity, name, price, all this stuff. And there is three options how we can create beforehand this business entity. First of all, we can use UI for this problem, but UI has a few disadvantages. First of all, it's slow, and the second problem is that it can be not so reliable. The second option, we can do direct interaction to database. And I think this option is the worst one, because here we have big problem with data consistency. And even if we find some defect after that, we are not sure is it like a real defect or it's just because of our data inconsistency. And the last and the best option is to use API REST to create or to delete business entities. And the last big task is to test business logic, but via API. Here it's pretty easy, just when we have some applications which even don't have any graphic user interface. For example, we have tool which do some data migration. Then we even don't have even any graphic interface, and because of that we need to go through all these workflows with API. And after we discuss a bit typical tasks, we can discuss typical solutions. And first typical solution is to use pure REST assured. And this solution is really good for solving the first task, for creating low-level API test, because this tool was created to solve such problem. But from my perspective, it is not so good for the second one to create pre and post condition, and for the third one to do business logic with API. Because actually when we do such activities, we would like to work with business entities, not with low-level request and response. And to solve the second and the third task, we have another approach, which I called using a layered architecture with clients. It looks pretty the same as layered architecture for UI testing, but we have like low layer, which is called API clients instead of page objects. Then we have middle layer with definitions and assertions, and on the last layer we have feature files. And this approach is also very good, but I start to think, can we improve this approach? And I had three ideas. First idea was to reduce the number of API clients as much as possible, like even to single client. It gives us a few benefits. First of all, it would be less code, and we all know that the lesser code you have, the better, because it's easier to maintain this code, it's easier to understand this code, and a lot of benefits. And another good thing about have a single client is that we will have one point in our application, in our test, where we will send our requests. And it means that in this one point we can do like very interesting stuff. For example, we can switch on all logs or switch off all logs. and it would be very easy because we will need to do it just once. Another step which can improve our process is to follow real REST structure with request which contains all required information about request, with method, with URL, with headers, with query parameters, with body. Then have a separate entity which will send this request, and separate entity which will represent response, which also will contain all required information about response. What it gives us? It gives us one very good benefit that we will have in our tests real models of request, which gives us opportunity to do some transformation. For example, we can transform our model from from entity to curl, and it gives us some unification with manual and automation testing, because we will use the same request for both types of testing, which is pretty good. And the last thing which I thought can be improved is just to reduce amount of code a bit further and to extract all this code to separate library, which I called nearest. And I understand that it can be a bit hard to justify to use like new library in your automation tests. And I think that it's okay even to just look at this library and to copy paste some interesting parts for you. But if you don't want even do copy pasting, you can just add this library as Maven dependency. And I think that's all about theory. And now I would like to show you how it looks on real life demo. Yep. First of all, I would like to give you some overview of this library. It's really small. It has just 4 main parts. And as I mentioned before, it contains from request wrapper, which is a model which represents our request, and it has all information what we need to have. Then we have response wrapper, the same here. Thus, we have all information which we need to have when we're talking about a response. Another part is rest assured wrapper. I add it just to give users an opportunity to have connection to raw rest assured functionality without adding one more time rest assured. And the most important part is interface, which is called iRest client. And here we have one important method send, which will send our request to our server. And I think it contains all CRUD operations and a bit additional functionality like managing our logs and so on. And that's all about this overview. And let me show you how to write some tests. First of all, let me present our test subject. It would be just very simple REST API, which returns a list of objects which are posts, and they contains from 4 fields. And to start to interact with this, we need just to create new, for example, Maven project. And I add here just Lombok just to reduce amount of generated code. And another thing which we need to add is nearest to dependency. it has a GitHub page where you can see what the last version of this library. After we add this library, we need to create a model which will represent our post, which has just like 4 fields as in our API. And then we are okay to start working. The next thing which we need to do is to create some client. For example, let it be a post client. And here we need to add just one line of code and to implement IRS client and to specify what request and response body type we would like to have. Yeah, just one line, and because of that, I said that we almost have like one client. After we create client, we can try to send our request. First of all, we need to create our request wrapper model, and let me do it. And here we need, for this simple URL, for this simple API, we need to specify just 2 things: URL and method which we would like to use. Example, array, get array. After we have a request wrapper, we need to create our post client and to use send method, where we will put 2 things. And let me name it response wrapper. And yep, okay, here I made mistake, typo. And let's check what happens. Let me run in debug mode, and what we are expecting, we're expecting that we will receive this JSON, but already transformed to list of objects. Okay, it's a bit long. Yeah, and it's done. And we can just to check what we have. Here in request wrapper, we have our model, which contains all this information which we specify here. And here we have a response wrapper, where we have status line, where we have headers, where we have body, which is a list of our objects. And for example, if we need some specific information which we don't have in our classic model, I specify here a response row, where we can take like row information from REST assured. Yeah, it's like just how to send some requests and get some responses. And let me run it to the end. And as you can see, there is no logs here. And because we send all our requests from one single point, it's very easy to do some configuration stuff. For example, we would like to switch on all our logs. And for that, we have special object which goes nearest config. And here we can set request logging, for example, all, and we can do the same for response, and the same all. And let me run this. What I'm expecting here, I expect that we will have all logs in our console. Let's a bit wait and to check. Yeah, and here you can see that we have all loaded in console. Yeah, and this is about lodging. But we can do and another stuff as well. For example, we would like to use curl, and we can import-export functionality, which allows us to use this string curl. For example, let's go to Postman, and here I will send one more time just to, yeah, it's fine. And here we can just copy our curl as a string. We can go here. We don't need this anymore. And we have special object with which will help us to just do it in yeah, as a variable, and we can put this variable, and the second we need to put what class we expect here. And let's try to run it one more time and check if it's working. Not with model, but with string curl URL. Yeah. And yeah, it's done, and we can see that this entity converts our curl to our model, and then everything works fine. Status code 200, and body has all these 100 objects. But it's not all we can do, and vice versa process as well. We can do it for some single model, but we can do it just like for all our tests, and it's works the same way as it works with logging. We just have special entity nearest config, but here we will set export strategy, and for example to console. And let me run it. And what I expect in here is that all requests which was used in this program will be sent to console, and we see that it happens. But we can do it not just in console, we can do it to file as well. And let me do it to file as well. And yeah, a bit waiting, but what I'm waiting for, what I'm expecting is that inside target folder we will have CSV export txt, and here we will have our curl. I run this a few times, and because of that we have like 3 curves here. Okay, it's all about exporting, and I have additionally implemented export from Postman JSON collection, but I will not show you it right now, because you can go to the site, and here you can see all instructions. I think that's all what I would like to show you, and yeah, I am ready to your questions.
Alessandro, thank you for the presentation. You make some intrigue and invite the audience to join documentation and read about exports in the Postman collection. And let me ask a few questions more. Do you mind that this approach is not good for the low-level API testing, right? And
Yeah.
could you provide some details about why do you not recommend it?
First of all, I just think that pure rest assured totally fine with low-level testing, and it would be just too much like new entities, new classes, and it's one thing. It makes your solution more complicated where you don't need it. And another thing is that this solution is not so flexible as pure rest assured. And for low level testing, you actually sometimes need to have more functionality. And because of that, I think that this like generic and nearest solution will be better for creating post and preconditions when you need to work with business entities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. And one more question about limitations. What limitation does it transform to curl functionality has?
Actually, curl is a very flexible way to write request specifications, and there is a lot of different ways how you can write curl. And now in solution you can use just one of syntaxes, not all of them. And if you will use some syntaxes which are not supported, you will have just error, and you will not be able to transform your curl to our model. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more questions about your plans. You announced that you have Postman export functionality, and could you share your plans? What next features do you plan to add to Nearest?
Mm. First of all, I think I would like to extend this import-export functionality just to make it works with different curve syntaxes. And another topics what I thinking about to extend functionality not just with REST API, but maybe with SOAP API, with GraphQL API, but it's just like plans. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your questions. Dear audience, if you have any questions after the talk, please feel free to leave them on the agenda page. And Alexander, one more time, thank you for informative presentation.
Thank you, audience. Thank you, organizations, that you gives me this opportunity to share my thoughts. And I hope that it was interesting and you find something something valuable for you in this presentation.
Yeah, also, we appreciate our audience for taking the time to watch this presentation. And I would like to invite you to join us on our social media platforms for more updates and discussions by the links in the chat. We look forward to connection with you. And let me announce the next topic. Join us for the next talk and be part of exciting discussion in a few minutes. Helinium, the self-healing test automation framework by Rahul Kumar.